What's up? I'm your Elixir mentor, Jacob Blitzo. Today, we're diving into building an interactive drop-down menu. We'll start with the basics using HTML and CSS, then kick it up by integrating Phoenix click actions and use some JavaScript functions to toggle the menu open and close. And this also will include smooth transition animations for a more polished look and feel. So let's open up the project and jump right in. Let's start by opening up our app.html.hex file. And we can find that in the lib directory, Elixir Gist web, and then components and layouts, and then our app.html.hex file. Let's actually look at our designs so we know what we're working on today. So if you look at our designs, in the last video, we did the top navigation bar here. That included this circular button with the nice little arrow next to it. So what we're going to be doing is adding a click action here. And when that's clicked, our menu is going to drop down. And depending on the state that we're in, if we're logged in, it will show what account is logged in and then give us a few other options to click on, right? And if you're not logged in, we will have a sign in. We'll also have we'll put a register in as well. So sign in or register account. So let's go ahead and get started now that you know what we're doing. So directly under our button div, we want them both inside of this outer div. So underneath our button div, we're going to create a div for the drop-down menu. So we're just going to do div, okay. And then inside the opening div tag, we want to give our div an ID. And our ID is going to be ID equals, and then inside double quotations, we're going to call it dropdown underscore menu. And then we're also going to want to have some CSS classes here, and we're just going to do an empty string for now. So using ID, what this does is it assigns an ID attribute, and this allows this specific div element to be selected by JavaScript or CSS. And when we add our Phoenix click action, or I should say when we use our JavaScript toggle function, we're going to be referencing the ID here to show and hide this div. So that's why we're putting an ID here. And then inside this class, we want to add a few things. The first thing we want to do is we want to say that this is absolute. And what absolute does is it will be positioned relative to the nearest ancestor element, which is this outer div that the button and our drop-down menu is in. So now when we do something like right-0, it's going to be right aligned to the outer div that it's within. And then you're going to recognize a lot of this. We're just doing some margins here. So we're going to do margin top -2, which is 2 units. And then we're going to do some padding on the Y of 2 units. And then we're going to set the width to 48 units. Oops, all this needs to be inside the double quotations. There we go. All right, and then a few things we're going to want in this. We want the background to be our BG. We want our EM dark color, and we're going to use the default, so it's not going to be the darkest. It'll be that dark gray. And then we're going to do rounded -LG, which is large rounded corners. And then we're also going to put a shadow behind our menu, XL. And so that adds a large shadow. And then we also want to have a border. So that adds a border. And then we want to set our border color to white. So now we have a white border. All right. So if we save this, and let's go ahead and open up our terminal. And also, let's make sure our Docker instance is running. We want our Postgres container running, and mine is not, so we better start that. And so now that our Postgres database is up and running. Let's cd into our project. Mine is in documents, develop, Elixir mentor, and then Elixir Gist. And let's go ahead and just run our project. So we're going to keep this running the whole time so we can see live updates in our browser. So mix space phx.server. All right. And now we can go to our local host, 4000. And you can see that you see what we've done in the past. So in the last video, we did this whole top nav. And now you see this oval type shape. So we're in the right direction. It's starting to look more like our designs as we fill things in. You'll see that. So that is what we just did. And that's looking pretty good. And now inside the same, our drop-down div, so underneath class, but inside the div, we want to have some conditional checks. And the way you can do conditional checks is you can do a less than % sign, and you can do your logic inside of this. So we can do if, and a way for the current user in a Phoenix LiveView app, you have access with @current_user do. So if there is a current user, it'll do whatever logic we put here, and we'll put sign out. If we want to do an else, we want to do less than % and then close it out the same way, and then else. So if there isn't a current user, if the current user is nil, then we want to do sign in. And obviously these are just placeholders to show you that it's working. And then we also have to end these conditional statements with a less than %, and then just do an end there. So now if current user is nil, it'll show us sign in. If current user is not nil, it'll show us sign out. And then we should see, oh, and we don't. Oh, we need an equal sign here. Okay, so now if we save this and now go to our browser, you'll see sign in. So we are currently not signed in, so there's no current user, and it's showing us the else HTML condition. So since there is no current user, since that is nil, it is then rendering the HTML within the else block, which is just text right now of sign in. So now let's go ahead and we can add a few things here for the sign in. All right, so in our else block, so if we're not logged in, we want to have an option to log in or register. So we're going to create 2 link divs. And we're going to use Tailwind here. So we're going to put a dot in front of that. And then we're going to have a closing tag of dot link over here. And then we don't need this, but we're going to keep our href. So href is going to be the path that we want this link to go to. And for us, first we want to have this route to our login page. And we already have this. It's just not going to be very, very pretty yet because this was already generated for us when we did our authentication stuff. But so right here, so href equals, go ahead and do an opening and closing curly brace. And then we're going to do a tilde p. And this is basically just allows us to now type a string path straight to where we want to go. And now we're going to need double quotations. Whoops. And now inside these double quotations, we're going to do /users /log_in, and then close those double parentheses off. And that is going to route to our already existing login view. And if you want to see that we have that, it is right here in our router.ex file. I'm going to just return down here. We're going to put our link underneath. And okay, so underneath our href, we're going to have a class. And for now, we're just going to have an empty string, but we're going to come back to this. But we're going to be adding CSS classes here very shortly. And then the role of this item is going to be a menu item. And then we want to have a tab in, put that double quotation after it. And then we want to have a tab index here equal to open quotations -1. And what that means is using the tab on the keyboard will not select these items, but you can click on them. We don't want them tabbable from the main screen. We only want like our title, description, and then code block to be tabbable items and the create gist. So setting that to -1 makes it not selectable using the tab key. And then our method here is going to be get, and then our ID. And so we're going to say user-menu-item-0. Okay. So that's that. And then in between here, in between the opening link tag and the closing link tag, this is going to be labeled sign in. So if we save that and go to our web browser, you'll see that it's still sign in. It doesn't look very pretty, but if we click on it, it doesn't navigate. It tried to navigate, but why can't we see anything? So it navigated to the right route. Now we just need to see it, right? So let's go ahead and underneath our header tag, let's go ahead and we need a main tag. So this is, there we go. And right here, all we have to do is the less than %, okay? And then we're gonna do @inner_content, and this will render whatever pages we're routing to, keeping our app.html there. So we'll always have our header and footer. So everything that we're writing in our app.html file right here will still be there with also loading the extra content. And there is one more thing we want to do here. And that is we want to do flash_group, and that is equal to opening curly braces and then do @flash and then close the curly braces and then close out that tag. The flash attribute holds things like error messages or other alerts that would be displayed usually in a toast in the top right corner. So that's what that is, and that allows us to send errors and whatever we want to that attribute, and then we have access to them. Oops. We want to set it to a flash variable, and we're using the flash group, which is a Tailwind custom class for our Phoenix project that is already there. I forgot the equal sign again. And there we go. So it's not pretty, but it allows us to be able to sign in now. And we'll fix up all the CSS on this in a later video. But now at least we can load other HTML and live views. Okay, so going back to our menu, now that we have our link working to log in, let's also make a link for registering. And if we just copy this block here, this link block, and put one right below it, and this time instead of users/login, let's do register. And this is still a menu item, and it's still get. And now this is user menu item 1. And then instead of sign in string here, we're just going to say register and then save it. And if we pull up our browser, now you see we have sign in and register, and they both route, but that doesn't look very pretty, and they're next to each other when we want them stacked. So let's go ahead and work on that. So we want all of our menu items to look the same. So font color, the hover state. So let's create a CSS class that we can use for each of these items. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up our our assets, CSS, app CSS. And so right above our round image padding, let's make a new CSS class, and we're going to call it our menu-item, and then opening and closing braces. And now in here, we're going to do the apply, And we want it to be a block. And block makes the element display as a block level element. So this takes up the whole line or creates a new line for whatever it is off of. And then we'll just add some padding on the X of 4 units and then padding on the Y of 2 units. And the reason I know these items is I just did it and looked at it and looked back and forth until I thought it looked like the design document, okay? And then our text size, we want it to be small. And then our text color, we want it to be white. And our font, we want it to be our brand font. And then we want it to be regular instead of bold. So if you save that, and now we can go ahead and use this custom class in our class here by just putting menu-item. And then we'll also do that down here, menu-item, and then save it and open up our browser. And there we go. So now we have sign in and register in white font that matches our brand font. We want to add a hover state so you know which one you're about to click on, where we're just going to change the color to a light gray. And then we also want, if we look at the designs again, we want lines in between certain things. So we want a line there. So between sign in and register, I think we should add a line. So what that would look like is basically just up here on our login link, next to item menu, we're going to add a border, but just to the bottom. So if we do border-B, that's just a bottom border. And then we can do border-white to make it white. And then we can also do border.opacity. And if we do opacity 50, it'll be 50%. So it won't be super white. It'll be like the off-white, like the designs. And then we can save that. And if we go back to the browser, you'll see we have a line underneath it. And it looks really similar to that color line. So I'd say that's pretty good. Now, one last thing that we want to add in our app.css file, we want to add a hover state. And for that, we would name our custom CSS class the same, so menu item, and then we just do a colon hover, and then opening and closing curly braces, and then the same thing, so add apply. And now just so for the hover state, we want the text color to be our EM dark -light, okay? And then save it. And now if we go back to our browser, now when we hover over it, it changes to light gray. So it's a lot more obvious that you're hovering over it. Pretty cool, right? All right, now that that's working, we can now sign in. And if you remember when we set up our authentication, I already created an account. So I'm gonna sign in, and again, ignore the ugliness. We'll take care of this in a later video. I'm gonna sign in with Jacob Blitzo at Elixir Mentor. I believe my password's Elixir Mentor. And then if we sign in, and that's the toast. So if we didn't have that flash in our app.html file, this would not show up. So it's reading from that flash attribute to display this toast. And now if you look, we lost our sign in and register, and now we're showing our sign out text that we put right here. So if current user is not null, it'll show this. So that's pretty sweet. So now we have to build all of our other links here. So we want to, first of all, we want to show the current user who's signed in, and then we're going to link to our like the gists we make page, and then our saved gists as well, and then a sign out. I know we don't have these pages yet, so we're just not going to have the path filled in, but we can still have them there and ready to work. So let's first do our signed in as Jacob at Elixir Mentor. How would we do that? Let's go back to our code here. So basically what we want to do is we're going to copy this top link here from our sign in, and we're going to replace our sign out with it. I just don't want to retype all this. And The link that this can go to our already built-in settings page that we got when we created authentication. So it's users/settings. And this is a menu item, and everything else can be the same, right? And then this can be menu item 0 as well. And then for our text, I forgot to have the closing tag here. So now inside these tags, we want some text, and it's going to say signed in as, and then we want to get our current user's email. And to do that, so to get any, to read any variables or do any kind of JavaScript code, we just do our less than %, and then we have to do equals, and then we can call our current user dot email. And then if we save it and go back to our browser, you're going to see now we're signed in as Jacob at Elixir Mentor. And we already put our border in because we copied our link from our sign-in page. So that's pretty sweet, right? Now, if I click that, it goes to the settings page. Ignore the ugliness. We'll fix that later. But so the routing is working correctly. And now going down the list, we would need a your gists, a saved gists, and then a line under saved gists, and then sign out. So we need 2 menu items, then a line. All right, so let's go back to VS Code. We're just going to copy our signed in as, it's fine. So copy that, put it right underneath our link. And we're just going to put, for the href, we don't have a string path to go to yet. So in here, just put a opening quotations and then hashtag. And we don't want a border. So we're going to delete that. But we do want the menu item custom CSS class. And this needs to be item number 1, not 0. And then we'll call this your gists, lowercase gists, okay. And then if we save it, go to our browser, there we go. And then let's go ahead and copy, where am I? Copy the your gists link tag here and repeat that. And this is going to be saved gists. All right, and we do want the border again. So let's just go ahead and copy our same border tag and add that to our class here. Boom. And then we have one more thing to do. Let's copy and repeat this. And now we can get rid of the border because this is our last menu item. And let's increment our ID on the save gist to 2. And then on this next menu item, we want to make this 3. And it's not saved gists anymore. Our last menu item is going to be sign out. And then we're going to want our href to be opening curly brace, tilde p for a string path, and that is going to be / users log _ out, and then close those parentheses. Oops. After the p, we need opening parentheses. There we go. Or not parentheses, quotations. And now we have our sign out link. So if we save it and go back to our browser, there we go. So we have sign in, your gists, save gists, and sign out. So now if we click sign out, our problem, so it's a git. And if you go and look at if you go to our routes, you can see that it's not a git, it's delete. So we just have to go to our HTML and our last sign out link, change our method from git to delete. So if we save that, let's just go, let's see. So if we sign out, there we go. We logged out successfully, and now the menu changed back to the sign in and register. It doesn't quite look like our designs though, does it? We have that nice little up arrow right there that we need to add. Let's go ahead and make that happen. And if you remember, we did that down arrow next to the profile picture. So let's go to our app.css. So this image down arrow, we're going to be doing something very similar. And let's go ahead and just do this right above menu item. And we'll call this our drop down dash menu dash arrow. And then we're going to do dash or colon before, and then opening curly braces. And the before pseudo element of any element, so it will put it before the element you're calling it on. So if we add it to our drop down menu div, it will be putting it before that. All right, so our content in here is going to be an empty string, and then our position is going to be absolute. And then the top, we want down -5 pixels. And then the left side, so the left property will set the left position, which means the browser will calculate the position dynamically. Well, we're going to be taking 95% of the width of our menu and subtracting 12 pixels. And so you can do that by doing calc opening parentheses, and then we're going to say 95% space minus 12 pixels, closing parentheses, and then semicolon. So that is where we're moving it basically 95% of the width from the left side, so almost all the way to the right side, and then subtracting 12 pixels. And the 12 pixels, I was just messing around until it looked right to me. Okay. All right. And then we can do our border width colon, and this is going to be 0, 5 pixels, space 5 pixels, 5 pixels. And the border width, the 4 values we control. So the first value is top, and then the right side, bottom, and left. So in this case, the top border is set to 0, and then the right, bottom, and left are set to 5. And then we want to do our border style, and we're going to do solid. And then we want to do our border color. And this is the same as the width. So we're going to do transparent, transparent, white, and transparent. And this property sets the 4 borders. So the values for top, right, and bottom and left. And the bottom border is white because the top border's width is 0. And this is making that upward facing triangle, right? So if we save this and now use this drop down dash menu dash arrow in our div here, our drop down in this class. So we're just doing a drop down menu dash arrow, save it, and we should have our arrow. There we go. And now we have an arrow pointing up. We got all the hard work out of the way, right? We need to now make this menu toggleable. So right now it's just showing, right? So we want to be able to click this and show it and hide it and all that good stuff. So now we have to use our JavaScript function for toggling. And Phoenix makes this really easy. So inside of our layouts directory, let's make a new file, and we're just going to call this .app.ex. And this will just be our def module. And we're going to call it Elixir just web.layouts.app. Okay, so we create a def module. We need an alias in our Phoenix LiveView JS module. There we go. And this gives us access to JS.toggle, which allows us to toggle a specific div that we want. So we're going to create a function in here called def space toggle underscore drop down menu, do. And so this is our function, our toggle drop down function. And right inside here, we can use, so we're going to use JS, our module, and then toggle. And inside toggle, it takes a couple parameters. So it takes, what do we want to toggle to? So the ID to the div we want to toggle. And so all we do is to, colon, and then in quotation, in double quotes, we're going to do hashtag, and then the name of our div, which is drop down underscore menu. And then if we save that, I want to just go back to our so drop down menu, that matches, right? Now that we have this function here, whoops, where am I? Now that we have this function here, we can call it when we click our button. We can have our button toggle. And so how we do that is we are going to add inside the button, after the ID, we add a Phoenix click action. So phx click, and then equals, and then opening curly brace. And then we just call that function. And so we have to do Elixir gist web.layouts.app.toggle underscore drop down underscore menu. And then if we save that and go to our browser, now when I click this, fingers crossed, it should hide. There we go. And then if I click it again, it shows. So now there is one thing I want to show you. If I refresh it, it automatically shows. We want it to not show until we click it, right? So to do that, it's really easy. All we have to do is after our class here in our drop-down menu div, so underneath class in the opening div tag, we want to say hidden equals opening quotation, closing quotations, and then inside that, we just want to say true. So now originally on load, by default, it will be hidden. So go back. Yep. So now when we refresh it, it's hidden. When we click it, it shows. This is looking pretty sweet, but it's a bit jarring, right? So look, it's there. I mean, it's good, but we can make it better. So what's really cool is with JS.toggle, we can pass in 2 more arguments. So not only does it take 2, it takes an in and out. And I'm going to just return down for readability reasons. So go to our app.ex file. And now we can do an in, and then opening and closing braces. And then after that closing curly brace, do another comma. We need a comma after our 2 as well. We can do out, colon, closing and opening curly braces. And now inside of these, we're going to do our ease in and ease out transitions. So we're just going to do transition. Oops, I got to spell though correctly. So transition, it's a ease dash out. And then the duration of this is dash 100 milliseconds. And this needs to also be between 2 quotation marks or double quotes. And I did this just until it looked right to me. 100 milliseconds seemed right. And so that's what I did. So this is easing. So this applies an ease out transition with 100 milliseconds. And then we also want to do a transform. And then the opacity is going to start at 0. And then we also want to do a translate here on the y-axis with a negative 10%. So it's going to kind of give it a little movement look as it fades in. It's going to look like it's sliding in from the top. And then after those, we're going to do, we need it to transform to 100%. So from 0, it then needs to move down. So it's going to start at 0, negative 10% up, and then we need it to be 100% in the position where we want it to end up. So that's transform opacity dash 100, and then translate Y to its 0 location. All right, so if we save this and go to our browser, I have a typo somewhere. Translate y negative 10%. We need a dash here. All right. I bet it doesn't like an empty. There we go. It didn't like that there was no options in our out. So now when I click on this, it is going to fade in and move slightly down. That's really cool. But then toggle off is still very jarring. So now we're just going to repeat what we just did, but backwards. So it then it fades to 0 and goes up. All right. So that's pretty cool. So we'll just put a comma here and do an out and then opening curly brace. And then we're going to do transition ease in. So everything is opposite. And then duration 75 milliseconds. It's going to go a little faster. And then we're going to do transform opacity 100. So from 100. And we want to translate from the Y position 0. And then we want to go from 100 to 0. So transform opacity 0 and then translate Y. And then we want it to go to negative 10%. All right, so everything is backwards. It will close a little faster than it opens. And then if we go to our browser, now when we click it, it fades in and now it fades out. Now we have a smooth dynamic appearance and disappearance effect to the drop-down menu. There you have it. We've built an advanced drop-down menu that's both visually appealing and interactive. Starting with HTML and CSS, we integrated Phoenix LiveView and JavaScript toggles for real-time functionality. We also added sleek transition for that final touch of polish. If you need any help, check out the solutions in the GitHub link in the description. Join my Discord server, Elixir Mentor. If you have any questions or just want to hang out and chat, that link is in the description as well. If you want to learn how to build scalable, production-ready, full-stack, and REST API solutions, hit that subscribe button now. I'm Jacob Litzo, your Elixir Mentor. See you in the next video.